for sponsoring our radio show. Tassos offers a modern touch to the Greek Mediterranean cuisine, serving traditional recipes with a modern twist in a contemporary setting with an emphasis on fresh seafood. Tassos is the perfect Fort Lauderdale restaurant to hold private parties, birthdays, corporate, and press events. They are open and have taken added measures to maintain the health and safety of their team, guests, and the community. For your convenience, they are offering a drive-up, delivery, or takeout services. They offer appetizers such as my favorite, zucchini chips, and their fine Greek spreads like tzatziki. For your entree, try their Colorado lamb chops, the finest lamb chops in the United States, or their fresh bronzino, are the freshest selections of a variety of fish. Call Tassos Greek Tavern today for reservations, 954-200-6006.
The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.
Welcome to the Ask the Experts show with local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Enjoy being educated in such topics as personal injury law, community association law, family law, bankruptcy law, along with health show topics like pain management, men's health, and dental implants. Now, sit back and enjoy today's Ask the Experts with host Steve-O.
I hope we're not confusing you. We have our political show, which we're really going to be moving to Tuesday night at 7 o'clock starting, well, actually we started last week, and Ask the Experts is on every Monday and Thursday from 6 to 7, drive time, every Monday and Thursday. And tonight's Ask the Expert, and she is an expert. She's even written a book. I want to welcome for the first time Vernita C. Williams, attorney Vernita C. Williams. She does elder law, she does wills, estate planning, and I'm going to tell you something, you're going to learn a lot tonight over the next 30 minutes. Welcome, Miss Vernita.
Thank you so much. How are you?
We've talked so much.
Yes.
And I was so impressed when I found out that you really are one of the top estate planning attorneys, and you really kind of do elder law.
Yes.
Is what you really, that's what where your heart really is in elder law.
Yes, it is.
See,
an
I
elder
know
law.
you.
It's estate planning and just helping people understand some things that they don't understand.
So we got 3 text messages today asking me to ask you, and before we get started, why is it so important to have a will?
Well, it's very important because after your loved one passes away, you really don't want the horrible surprises that go along with not having one. People assume if I was living with mama, if I was taking care of mama, I'm the only one taking her to the hospital, I'm the only one doing this, doing that. Everybody understands I get the house. But that's not what the judge thinks.
Right.
That's not what the court thinks. It's terrible when you get the big, awful surprise after you have lost a loved one. Losing the person is enough, but to find out your life is not going to be what you thought it was going to be. So you really, really need to do a very well put together estate plan so that you can remove the surprise element, because most of the time the surprise ain't pretty at all.
Especially when you have to go through probate, right?
Especially.
So
Yes.
tell everybody about yourself and your practice first, because this is your first time on.
Well, I am in Miami, and I represent people. Really, I handle probate cases. I represent people all over the state. I went to the University of Miami. That's where I received my law degree, and I'm licensed to practice in the state of Florida. I went to undergraduate school at Florida A&M University, where I received a bachelor's and a doctorate in pharmacy.
So you didn't know you wanted to be a lawyer then?
Well, no, I didn't know that then. You know, I became a pharmacist first. I moved to Washington, D.C. I was the youngest professor at Howard University.
Great
in the School
school.
of Pharmacy. I was at Howard University. I was 22 when I became a professor at Howard University.
Wow.
Many of my students were a little bit older than me. And so I was there. Law schools were all around me. American University, Catholic University, Howard University Law School, George Washington University Law School, Georgetown. It was about 5 or 6 law schools within a 30-mile radius of me.
Wow.
There was one 2 blocks from my apartment.
And here
Catholic
you were
University.
trying to go in the pharmacy
I
business.
I was already a pharmacist. So then, as you mature and you grow older, you kind of navigate towards what best suits your personality. I think my personality is lawyer personality.
Wow. So now, and just because you're in Miami, you're, especially with COVID now, you're doing a lot with Zoom in.
I'm doing a
So
lot
it doesn't
of,
matter where you live.
I'm doing a lot of Zoom hearings, a lot of Zoom meetings. Right now, people are experiencing a lot of death, unfortunately. People are experiencing just fear and the need now more than ever to do an estate plan, do a medical power of attorney, do a last will and testament, and get your affairs in order. So I'm getting a lot more inquiries about that, and not way more than before. So
I got to bring this up. Can you believe that Prince did not have a will with all of his money?
there are a lot of people that didn't have a will. Okay, Prince didn't have a will with all of his money. And if you look in, this is in the introductory chapter of my book.
Your book you wrote.
My book, Make a Will, Do It Right, or the one you don't like will end up with all your stuff. That's the name of my book. My book tells you that Prince didn't have a will. And it's a bunch of folk, a lot of folk lined up.
But he had a lot of managers, people taking care of him.
He was obsessed with his music contracts and his legal
Didn't like the
deals
business part.
And he will sue you at the drop of a hat about anything related to his music, but he didn't have a will. Aretha Franklin did not have a will.
Wow,
She
with
didn't
all
have
of her
a will.
money.
She did not have a will. They found a handwritten note in the cushion of a pillow or something in her home. And that is what they are fighting about right now. But she didn't have a formal will drafted by an attorney. She did not. James Brown had a will, but it has never been enforced. I have a copy of it. There was nothing wrong with it, but people started fighting over a whole lot of things, and he had a lot of stuff going on. He was married, but the woman he married, she was already married when he married her, and they fought about that, and they found out that the marriage that she was in was illegitimate. Therefore, when she married James, it was thought to be legitimate later. Just a whole lot of stuff. But a lot of people didn't have a will. The young man, Black Panther star,
Okay.
Bozeman, no will.
You're kidding.
No will. No will.
Do you think people think like if they don't have enough money, they don't need a will? I mean, you don't have to be wealthy.
Well, there's a little theory that if I don't write a will, I won't die. And some people think if I don't write it, I won't die. And if I write a will, then that means that I know inside I'm about to go.
That's like me with the
So-
flu shot. I don't
so-
want to take it because I'll get the flu if I take it.
So, you know, the Black Panther star didn't have a will. So
Wow.
I don't think, it's not a money thing and it's not a class thing. It's not the most favorite thing for people to do.
Can you show
So
your book?
sometimes-
I guess it's this camera right here.
Yes, let me show my book. This book is Make a Will, Do It Right, or the one you don't like will end up with all of your stuff.
What made you write the book?
Well,
As busy as you are.
Well, what made me write the book is I do a lot of community seminars, and I have a lot of subjects that come up often. And the book was my way of putting in print the key things that are areas where people make a mistake. This book is full of real life stories. All of the stories except 2 or 3 in here happen in Miami-Dade County. I shared this book with all 4 of the probate judges, and I told them all of the stories in here are stories and cases that appeared before you, every single one of them. So I'm sure, and I got feedback from the judges.
You did?
I did get feedback, and I'm sure they were looking in there to see which of the stories happened in their
court,
respective
yeah.
right. But I wrote the book because I see so many instances where people make the same mistake over and over and over. So the book is designed to help people understand 8 basic questions I assist them in answering when they come to me as an attorney. There are 8 questions. Each of those questions have 1 chapter dedicated to that question to help them kind of sort through what goes on in that area and come up with a real answer. Not an emotional answer, not a what mama said answer, daddy said he wanted me to have this property, but a real answer to the 8 questions. So that's why I wrote this book. I tell you in the book, your planning should be in 2 areas. You need to do incapacity planning and you need to do estate planning. You cannot just do estate planning and think incapacity is satisfied. Incapacity planning is the kind of planning that says I'm still alive, but here are the things that I put in place to help myself if I need help. That includes medical power of attorney, that includes a durable power of attorney, and a living will. It says I'm still here, but these are the people I appointed. Now, a lot of times, and here's a classic mistake, people come and they have a durable power of attorney that was given to them by someone. And they said, okay, I have the durable power of attorney, so-and-so has passed away. I'm getting ready to handle their affairs using the durable power of attorney. Well, no, you're not. Because when that person died, the durable power of attorney died with them. So you no longer have any authority. So this book is designed to address classic mistakes, help people understand how to navigate around these things that come. Can you imagine you got a power of attorney? You go to the bank. You need to do the memorial.
Right.
You got your power of attorney. You think you're getting ready to get $10,000 out of the bank. No, you're not. They're just going to say, oh, we're so sorry for your loss. But the power of attorney is no longer active.
Wow.
So you can't get anything out of the bank. So there you are stuck. Here's $50,000, $100,000 in the bank. You need to do a memorial. But now you don't have a way to get to the money without going through probate. So,
how do you deal with the families? I mean, that has got to be, people fighting over, it's always money.
well, here's a classic.
How do you deal with it?
Here's a classic discussion. That's a good question. That's a good question. People often want to fight when they go to the lawyer, and especially if either there is no last will and testament or there is a will and they don't like what it says. So then you go to the lawyer and you want to fight. You feel very emotional. You want to fight. You want to talk about all the stories. You want to say, how could that one be named in the will? And she stole $10,000 from mama and she said, you want to say all of that. Now, if you are talking to an experienced attorney who knows what they're doing, they are not going to allow you to carry them down the emotional road of, yes, let's fight. You have to have the discussion to see whether there is something worth fighting about. You got to first look at, if there's a will, let's look at it and see, does it look valid? Does it have 2 witnesses? Was it properly notarized? Are there inconsistencies in the will that would make you think it shouldn't be admitted? Was there undue influence? The person who wrote the will, did she give everything to the person who took her to their lawyer to write the will? When the will was written, whoever did the will, did they pay for the legal services, or did the one who's getting everything in the will pay the lawyer? So it's a lot of things to look at. But when people want to fight, you have to have the come to Jesus meeting.
Yes.
They have to come to Jesus while they have time. And here is what you have to get them to look at. Is it worth it? Okay, I've had a number of families who wanted to fight. I was able to get them on the same page. Here's how. I say, okay, you want to fight. We have one property in the estate that's worth about $250,000, and everybody wants to fight. So everybody is going to go and lawyer up. So each of you will pay your lawyer $30,000 or $40,000, and you're only going to get about $50,000 each one of you out of this anyway. So when you get through fighting and paying your lawyer $40,000 out of your $50,000 and you go home with $10,000 because you wanted to fight over the $250,000 property. The worst thing I've ever heard from a client is this: if I had known that I was only going to get this little bit of money after this fight, I would not have had the fight. So you share with them, when you get through fighting, what do you stand to gain? Are you going to get less than what you would have gotten had you decided not to fight? Or are you fighting and you're going to end up with a lot more? People can see clearly when you tell them, if you don't fight and you all just agree. This is what I did with the family. They wanted to fight. Property was worth about $250,000. It's 5 of them. I said, okay, if you don't fight and you just agree everybody get the same thing, you all get $50,000. If you do fight, each one of you will pay your lawyer out of whatever you get. So there's no way you're going to go home with $50,000 if you've got to pay your lawyer. So you have to make it about the dollars and cents. When the dollars are less, you got sense enough not to fight.
Wow.
That's how that
seems
goes.
so easy. How can someone not want to take your
It's
advice?
not that easy when it's a lot of emotions involved. It's not that easy when it's a lot of emotions involved.
So when it comes to estate planning, what's the most important thing?
The most important thing is for a person to sit down with their lawyer and identify their areas of exposure. Everybody is not equally exposed to something bad happening. If you have a cookie cutter life, if you got one wife, one house, one car, 2 children, both of the children born to this husband and this wife, everybody getting along hunky-dory, everybody wants everything 50-50, that's beautiful, that's fine. You don't have that many danger areas. But if you have a blended family, you just came into a marriage, your wife just came into a marriage, both of you have prior relationships, children from prior relationships, a fact pattern like that lends itself to a lot of possibilities. For instance, if one person has a property, let's say the husband has a property in his name, okay, he didn't put his wife's name on it, he passes away suddenly, it's just in his name. The wife thinks by virtue of being wife, she gets the property 100%. She doesn't. She doesn't. Even if it's homestead. If her name is not on it, she doesn't get it 100%. So you have to look at your exposure areas. Or let's consider this one. A lot of times people will call me and say, my dad married, this is his second wife that he's with when he just passed away. He put the second wife's name on the property and before he died, and my dad has died, and you mean to tell me his second wife now gets to give the property to her son? My daddy's property is going to his second wife's son. It was my daddy's property. When my daddy married her, she was penniless. She had nothing. So you're now trying to tell me. So when you have these blended families and marrying later in life and children from different relationships, there's a lot of exposure to very bad possibilities. So you have to look at the exposure level based on the fact pattern, and you can't really do that unless you've been practicing in this area. A lot of people, they go online, they go to self-help things, they try to do it themselves,
right.
And they don't understand that for a classic example, lady came to me, she had deeded her dad's property, her dad had deeded his property to her. He had married a younger woman, and the children couldn't stand this. They thought the younger woman was a gold digger, and they also thought that the child that the young woman had for their dad was not their dad's. They didn't think the dad could have any kids. So when the dad passed away, he had already done a deed deeding his property to his children. Well, guess what? The wife sued them.
Which she could do.
What she could do, Okay, but they didn't really understand that homestead gave the wife rights.
Wow.
That the wife would be able to have either a life estate if she wanted it, or based on Florida law as it was changed a couple of years ago, she can even elect to sell the property and take 50% of the money. They didn't understand that. They thought, ha ha ha, dad is gone. He has deeded the property to us. And they gave her time to vacate the premises. After the dad was buried, it wasn't a week before they notified her, you need to vacate the premises.
Wow, the dirt hadn't even dried yet.
Yeah. So
Is that
you know.
why this revocable living will is so important?
Well, the revocable living trust is, I compare it when people come to meet with me. People say, I want to do a will, or they say, I want to do a trust.
Okay.
Okay, if you do a will, you will have to go to probate court. The probate court is the only governing body that can oversee that will and see to it that what's
Which gets
in there.
expensive.
Which gets expensive. You will have to go. If you do a will, it will not be private. Anybody can just go right to the courthouse and say, I want to see that file, and 9 times out of 10, your will is going to be in there. If you do a will and you have to go to probate court, you're going to be there 6 to 12 months or longer.
Wow.
That's just the nature of the beast. Okay, a lot of people say, well, I don't like that. I don't like having to go hire a lawyer. I don't like it taking 6 to 12 months to settle the estate. I don't like everybody being able to go and pull the file and look. So the benefit of doing a trust, and the thing that's attractive to a lot of people, is generally it's private. Unless somebody starts suing about what's in the trust, then it becomes public. But generally it's private. Generally, you don't take all of that time. The successor trustee will simply do whatever the trust tells them to do. So it's private. It doesn't take all that time. And then another thing about a trust is it kind of shields you from having your property go to an unintended person.
Does it keep you out of probate?
It keeps you out of probate.
Okay.
You don't have to go to probate court if you have a properly drafted trust. Now,
That's the thing, properly drafted.
That's another thing. People who are going online and just writing down something and saying, okay, I see online you can do a trust. I think I'm doing a trust. Let me do it. Let me tell you the number one area where I see a big problem with people trying to do their own trust. When you do a trust and you're trying to put your property in trust, there's a process called funding the trust. If you don't fund the trust is null and void. It is inoperative. Funding the trust means, let's say you got 5 properties and you do a trust and you want your properties to be controlled by the trust. Not only must you do the actual trust agreement, but you must fund the trust. And by funding the trust, I mean you must literally do a trust deed and take the property out of your name and put it in the trust entity. If you don't take it out of your name and put it in the trust has nothing to control. It's still in your name and it's going to probate. Most people don't understand that you've got to fund it. They don't fund it.
So they can either pay you now or pay you later, because you've got to go to an attorney. The money you think you're saving.
Yeah. If you don't do it right, it's as if you didn't do anything. Because if you don't fund the trust, the property is not in the trust. Therefore, it's not under the control of the trust. So if you don't do it properly, then your estate is going to be handled according to the Florida statutes. And that was probably what you were trying to avoid all along. So,
Okay, I'm going to butter you up now. You should be a professor of law, too. Because I got to tell you something, the way you explain things, we have a lot of attorneys that come on the show. But, I mean, even me, I can understand everything you're saying. So when you sit down with the family, the most important thing is you want to make sure they understand what you're telling them, and you make it so easy to understand.
when I sit down with the family, I get out my estate planning decision summary chart. This is a chart that has those 8 questions on it. And I say to them, so that we can be organized and we're not going to be all over the place, We're going to go through this chart. In this chart, you will see the 8 questions I need you to answer, and you will see the key things about each of those 8 questions I need you to remember in making your decision. I go through this chart. This is a part of an estate planning decision action roadmap system that I created. And this is one of 4 resources that a person could actually buy from my website. If they want to see what are the 8 questions, and if they want the book, Make It Right, Make a Will, Do It Right, that explains each of the 8 questions, you can go to my website. It's vcwlaw.com, and there you can get a copy of either the hard copy of the book, if you just want the book, or you can actually get the estate planning system, where you can pick up this resource, the summary chart. You can pick up 25 things to do to get your affairs in order, and you can pick up 25 tips to help you avoid legal nuisances and nightmares. The reason I did this 25 things to help you get your affairs in order, the checklist, is because there's more to life than just doing a last will and testament.
Right.
So you're going to do your last will and testament, yes, but
Give everybody your phone number.
my phone number, if you'd like to call me, 786-831-9483. That's 786-831-9483.
I got to tell you, this has been, I told you, it goes by fast. But Vernetta is going to be back with us again next month. And we had so many questions, and we got to one of them. But it's like I'm mesmerized. I'm just sitting here listening to you, and you make so much sense. We will be back again on Thursday from 6 to 7. Give Vernetta's office a call tomorrow. One more time with the phone number.
786-831-9483.
We will be back again for all these who want to listen to the political show tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. Thanks, Vernetta. Great job.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Ask the Expert Show, featuring interviews with local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Call our office at 888-574-6999 to become one of our experts on the show. And tune in again next week for more Ask the Experts with Steve-O.